before dawn, milk cows, work all day in the fields, milk cows again, eat supper, then go to town and stay past midnight at a meeting of the school board.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Agriculture is people.
Definitely.
What do the other 99% do? What options do they have available to them because they don't have to worry about where their food comes from?
Low prices squeezed essentially every farmer in America. But you farmers did what you always do. You kept on keeping on and you persevered.
Hello and welcome to the Four Corner Ag Podcast. My name is Caleb Wirtz. I'm your host. I've got Maverick Lighty here. Maverick, how are you, buddy?
I'm pretty good. This rain makes me very happy. So,
yes.
So that's good.
Oh, man, we've gotten a lot of rain. Maverick and I are down here, for those of you who don't know, down here in McClave, Colorado. It's like the southeastern corner. Maybe not as far south as you could go, but it's pretty far. And we don't see rain very often, but we've gotten... Some of the places over in this area have gotten like 2.5 inches in the last 2 days, which is 2.5 inches more rain than we've had in the last 3 months. So,
if you're in Colorado right now, you should be happy.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking to Caleb's dad before I came up here, and we started rolling. But I think at June last year in southeastern Colorado, we only had like 1.5 inches of rain. And we've already beat that.
Yep.
And it's only March 14th.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
So,
here, I've got, okay, so before we get any farther, Tyson Schneider, the state vice president, is on. He's our guest for today. Tyson, you're welcome to talk and put into the conversation too, because where do you farm at, Tyson? Where's your family farm?
Well, my name is Tyson Schneider. I am the state FFA vice president. I come from the small but ever not growing town of Cope, Colorado, out here on the Eastern Plains. If I had to give you a location, I'm about 45 minutes from Kansas and half an hour north of I-70. And yeah, farm just in between Cope and Joe's, Colorado. As for you guys' conversation about the rain the past couple days, we are in the exact same boat up here, where I guess we're not in a boat yet because it hasn't rained that much. But we've got in probably about 1 8/10 or 2 inches just here on at the house, but over there at the farm, about 5 miles east of us, they definitely got over 2 inches over there, and we're really excited about it.
My goodness, dude, the winter wheat is just gonna pop. Oh my goodness! As soon as it warms up.
Well, I sure hope it does, because we only got our wheat in dry land. Some of the people around here have it irrigated, and there's few of them, but most of it's dry land. And last year, we did not have very good success with any sort of dry land crops, wheat or corn, and I don't think anyone else really did. It got really hot in the summer and didn't berry, and it had really nice heads and everything, but there was nothing inside those heads to back up the size of them. So that's where we're sitting right now.
Tyson, explain to us a little bit about those few terms that you just used, like berry and the heads didn't put out or whatever, and that kind of thing. Explain to us that, because not everybody listening will understand that.
Yeah. Okay. So pretty much when you're looking at a wheat head or wheat stalk, whatever you want to call it, it's not thick enough to call it a stalk in my opinion, but you got that little thin stem. That's pretty much what you see on all kind of wheat. And then you got that head on it. And that head is made up of all these different like little things that we call berries. And they have this kind of outer shell to them. And they can have a big shell and pretty much they can look really good. But if you don't get the rain and it's too hot or a bunch of other factors that go into pretty much farming dryland wheat, it could not berry. And you could have a big head with absolutely nothing to show for it, because the way you test that is just taking a head off, breaking it in your hand, looking at your hand and seeing how many seeds you got in there, or kernels, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
Yeah. If there's a big head and you got like 5-6 kernels in there, you're not doing too hot.
Yikes.
That sounds like 5-year-old me cracking open an Easter egg and not finding anything inside of it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, that's about right. So it goes a lot off of the size of the berry, then you're saying, Tyson?
Oh yeah, that's the same like it would with any other, I guess, grain crop or anything like that.
Right.
I don't want to say the heavier, but obviously we go off bushels per acre, and you want your bushels per acre to be above the average what it usually is. So yeah, if you got a heavier bushel, well not bushel, heavier kernel, and you got some good weight to your crop, you're gonna be looking good. Obviously, then you got to take in protein and everything else that goes along with it, but
Right.
that's some stuff I don't know too much about.
Protein. Yeah. No, if I remember correctly, it's kind of like a bell curve. And so as you get a larger head on your wheat, eventually you'll get to a point where it's a big old massive head and you're going to get a large yield, but the protein or whatever else is in it, I wish I knew the correct terminology, but the levels in it are going to be a little bit lower just because it's too big almost. And so, yeah, I'm not for certain on that. I wish I knew the correct terminology, but yeah, I think it's pretty awesome. I'm excited to see what our wheat does, especially down here. Like, Maverick, when you were driving up to our place, did you see how green the field is getting out here?
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. I didn't even realize there was the wheat planted out there.
Yeah.
And something I'd like to point out about southeastern Colorado real quick is, like, when we don't get any rain, like, this place is ugly, right? Like, it's brown and, like, it's not fun to look at. But when we get some rain, like, it's like some good rain and we have a nice wet year, this
Right.
place is beautiful. Because, I mean, you've got all the wildflowers up in the pastures and everything, and the grass up there is actually green.
Right.
And it's like everything is just green, and it looks like northern Nebraska or like those rolling hills.
Right.
And it's super cool. When we do get rain, it's beautiful. It's neat.
Dang. Hey, that's pretty okay. So when you were saying that, I realized this is completely not even on topic. But when you're saying that, I'm sitting here looking at you across the room. For those of you listening, we just got a new setup for this podcast. It's pretty cool. We got a couple new microphones and everything. And we were having a little bit of trouble before recording this episode. But I think I might have just figured out why, because I was sitting here looking at Maverick. So hold on for 1 second, and you're going to hear me back out of my chair or whatever. But I think I'm going to fix something. Let me try this really quick.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Tyson, can you hear me?
See if that changed anything.
I don't know. I don't think Tyson can hear me.
It changed a lot for me. Tyson?
If Maverick said a word, I did not hear what he said.
Well, I guess it's still giving us problems then. I thought for sure that microphone was turned the wrong direction, but that's okay. We're good. We're good.
I can hear myself a lot clearer now.
Yeah, that microphone is, I don't remember what they call it, but it only takes in sound from one direction.
That makes sense.
I don't know. You guys are listening to a couple of noobs here. We don't really know what we're doing on podcasts, but we're having fun doing it, at least.
Hey, if anyone knows, like, what they're doing with audio setups, send help.
Yeah.
We could use it
seriously.
right now.
100%. Yeah, we're, man. What, I guess I would describe it as a couple of farm boys trying to figure out how to mess with microphones and stuff on a computer. And so far it sounded pretty good, but I don't know. I'll use this whole topic of talking about our new this podcast and how kind of ingenuitive it is to bridge us into kind of what we've had to do as state officer team this year. Like Tyson, you've been doing Spill the Tea. That's pretty cool, right?
It's very cool. And I think it's helped us, at least in this virtual year, make some connections with members, the connections we would otherwise not have.
Right.
But another thing that's really neat about it is obviously when you think of a state officer and meet one in normal years, you see this very professional, very solid person on the outside when they're in their kind of state officer form. And
right.
we haven't had too much experience with having to do that this year. So the few times we do get to meet members, whether it's virtually or by chance in person, because FFA members are everywhere.
Right. Oh yeah.
We're obviously professional, but we are not nearly as unrelatable as like a past state officer would be.
Oh, right.
Where we are kind of more relatable and just being a 19, 20-year-old person.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I was figured, so in high school, I was always Twitter pated by every state officer ever, right? I don't know. I always looked up to them and thought, man, that is the cream of the crop, which, I guess they are. We are as state officers, but maybe I'm miscommunicating myself here, but I just always looked at them and thought, man, I just don't even, not on the same level, there's no way that I have something in common with this person. And then you'd find out that you do have something in common with them, and you just think, like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Like almost godlike, if that makes sense.
Yeah, maybe not quite on that level, but yes, absolutely. I don't know. Did you guys see it like that?
The epitome, like, perfectness of what an FFA member should be.
Right. Yeah.
And I would agree that this year, like, with our circumstances and everything, that it has made us much more personable to members.
I sure hope so, at least. I feel like we have. I saw somebody at Walmart the other day. Tyson, you don't have a Walmart anywhere near you, but I saw someone at Walmart the other day and just said hi and not really anything else, but it was a cool little interaction just because, like you said, Tyson, that members are all over the place and we're real people. I don't know. I think it's interesting. Tyson. I think Tyson disappeared.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, there's Tyson.
Tyson. Okay. As for like team dynamics, I will just tell the world, Tyson, you are the quiet guy, like 100%. You are the quiet dude. Maverick is quiet in meetings. I think it's the funniest thing. Just in Zoom meetings and everything, Maverick can, if you are ever really easily intimidated by somebody, I think Maverick would be the one to intimidate you. But Tyson, you're like the type that is quiet, but also, what's the word? Meek. You know what? That's the exact word. You're meek. Because you're both powerful, but you're like powerful in your eyes, Maverick. Like if you look, if you make eye contact, it'll freak you out. Tyson just looks stone cold faced and just like, I'm ready. But as soon as he's ready to talk, boom.
It's like his face just like brightens up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think my eyebrows might have something to do with that.
When I was going through mock interviews for state office. When I was going through interviews for state office, I think the term they used for that was rigid. So I think that I was talking about like rigid. Like when I was doing my mock interviews, with my ag teacher and a couple other people, Logan Henry, Molly Wagner, and Leah. I can't remember her last name. She was state president like 5 years ago, I think, from Akron.
Okay,
forgive me, but yeah, they would say you're very rigid in how you're like saying your answers, and it got better over time, but that's exactly how I would describe it.
I would agree with that. Rigid. It's just not quite abrasive because it's not like you're bad to talk to or hard to talk to. It just is. Okay, I could see rigid. That's interesting.
But it's more like a professional kind of rigid,
right?
Not like obvious, not like in a bad sense or anything.
Right. It'd be if you're talking to,
but it's not as personal as someone would want a state officer to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm trying to think of like a famous person to assimilate that to. I don't know, Arnold Schwarzenegger. No, I feel like he's pretty much a outgoing person.
Yeah.
Probably not rigid. I don't know who would be. Joe Rogan. He's pretty rigid. He's funny though. I don't know who I would.
Love the Joe Rogan podcast, by the way. They
Dude,
talk
I've been
about some
listening
deep
to so
stuff
many.
on there.
Tyson, do you listen to more than this podcast? Because I listen to a couple solid podcasts, and I've really gotten into them.
It's
the last
often
couple
enough
weeks.
for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely often for sure. Some agri talk. I more or less watch Ag Day all the time, but that ain't no podcast.
Right.
But as for anything else, not really. I'm not too much on the podcast trend, I guess.
I wasn't either until probably a month ago. I was driving, and I think I was headed to your house, Tyson. And I was sitting there like, man, okay, I'm tired of my same playlist of music, which never happens because I love just belting out songs and singing while I'm driving. But I was driving up to your house, Tyson, and that takes about 2 hours. And I found a podcast. Which one was it? I think it was. Oh, I don't even remember. I found some podcast.
You were telling me. I think it was.
It's
some kind of like, I don't want to say worship podcast, but something Christian related.
Yeah, it was. It was something about like developing my spiritual walk, but yeah, it was something like that. I was listening to it. They were like 30-minute episodes. It was perfect. I listened to 4 episodes on the way to your house, and ever since then, I listen to music still, but whenever I'm driving, I just throw a podcast on. It's kind of cool.
I love podcasts, and like one of the reasons that I love them so much is there's so much knowledge that you can drain and like pull out of them, but it's so entertaining at the same time, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, I think that the information that you can get out of them, like you said, Mav, is like insane because you get to experience all of the other stories and life experiences that other people have had. I think that's super interesting. I don't know. I feel bad, Tyson, that you're not on the podcast train, because the podcast train is chug-a-luggin', okay? It's pretty awesome. You just haven't found the right podcast yet.
I mean, I do the same thing you guys do with the podcast. I put them on in the car, and the thing is, though, that is your podcast I put on in the car. So either Four Corner Ag or Agri Talk.
Dang. Yeah, I was talking to, well, I guess I'll do a little bit of a member shout out. I was talking to Rose Weideman, and she's been a really involved member this year in all of our online stuff and everything. And she said that she listens to our podcast whenever she's working on yearbook stuff for her school, and that the other day she forced her yearbook staff to listen to our podcast while they were working on the yearbook. And I don't know if I couldn't tell if I was supposed to be flattered because they were listening to our podcast, or if she was using us as some sort of punishment, maybe. I don't know. No, she actually said it was really good, and that her the yearbook staff and really enjoyed it. But I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Hey, well, at least we're getting more ears listening out there.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's pretty cool. I can re-update it, but last time I looked on our statistics page for our podcast, the geolocation thing has gone like off the hook. It's been insane. Yeah, it has. We've got, Colorado, Virginia, Colorado, Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Colorado, Wyoming, North Carolina, and then there's 13% of our other listeners that are from, I think we still have some in India, some in, I think Orville, the state reporter? What is he?
Wasn't he secretary? I don't know.
He's down in Puerto Rico. I think he's listened to it before. So we've got down in Puerto Rico. I think we had one in like Panama. But we're pretty much all over the place. I am astounded by how much the podcast has kind of blown up. Four Corner Ag has blown up in the last couple weeks.
You know, I'm kind of interested, like, how did the people in India like get on their phones and like, oh, Four Corner Ag, like, let's listen to this and see what it's about? I mean, there's a lot of farmers in India, right?
Oh, I'm sure.
And
yeah.
I also think there's a lot of issues going on over there, too.
Right.
Maybe they're trying to find, like, an outlet or something to
gain
more knowledge. Or
I'm going to look up what India's agriculture looks like.
I've heard that there's, like, a bunch of protests going on over there and stuff.
For agriculture?
Yeah, like farmers because what their government's trying to do. Don't quote me on this. I don't know if it's like 100% factual or not, but what their government's trying to do is turn their entire ag economy into corporate farming.
Oh.
And corporate ranching. And so you have all of these local farmers that have risen up, and they're going to the Capitol and protesting. So maybe you can fact check that, fact check that for me, real quick.
Snapshot is what I'm looking at for India agriculture. Let's see. I don't know. No, I'm not seeing. Oh, government initiatives. Okay, here we go. In November 2020, the government inaugurated a mega food park in, I don't know how to say that, Punjab? I don't know.
India word.
Yeah, well, I think it's some city in India that'll spread. Yeah, that's not it, though. I don't know where it is. Tribal Cooperative Marketing Development Federation of India, the TriFed. New forest fresh organic products sourced from tribes across India. It sounds cool. Looks like there's all sorts of new stuff happening in the last 2 years where they're really trying to develop their agriculture commodities, but I don't see anything about riots or anything. I don't know. I really don't know where you would even look to keep up with.
Try to Google like India farmer protests or something like that.
India. Let's see. Tyson, was this something that you had heard about?
No, it's pretty new to me as well.
Yeah.
Well, I looked up India farmer protest, and the first thing is women take over farm protests in India for international what? Oh, for International Women's Day. Oh, okay. So they were saying it was a protest for female farmers or female people working in agriculture in general. They wanted new laws to produce markets for private buyers. So basically, the way I understand this is that they've got a whole group of women in agriculture in India who are trying to actually like expand their markets, and that they protested. Wow, now everything's coming up. My goodness gracious. Okay, here we go. 2020 to 2021, Indian farmers protest. The 2020 to 2021 Indian, that was a misspoken word. Indian farmers protest is an ongoing protest against 3 farm acts which were passed by the Parliament of India in September 2020. Farmer unions and their representatives have demanded that the laws be repealed and have stated that they will not accept a compromise. Farmer leaders have welcomed the Supreme Court of India to stay order on the implementation of the farm laws, but rejected the committee appointed by the Supreme Court. Farmer leaders have also rejected a government proposal dated the 21st of January 2021 of suspending the laws for 18 months. 11 rounds of talks have taken place between the central government and farmers' representatives by the farm unions between 14th of October 2020 and the 22nd of January of 2021. All were inconclusive. So basically they're getting nowhere with repealing these three pieces of legislation. It's not saying what they are, though.
If you scroll down a little bit on Wikipedia, it says the acts, often called the farm bills, have been described as anti-farmer laws by many farmer unions, and politicians from the opposition also say it would leave farmers at, quote-unquote, the mercy of corporates. The farmers have also demanded the creation of some minimum support price bill to ensure that corporates cannot control the prices. So it kind of sounds like to me that they're trying to prevent the monopolization of corporate farming in India.
Oh, dang. I bet that's going to affect world markets like crazy.
Oh, it would
because
have
I'm sure
to.
there's quite a bit of exports out of India. I'm going to look that up too. I don't know. Tyson, can you think of any way that would affect the exports or the world ag economy? Because I know that a lot of our markets changed under, under the last president and then under current president. It's pretty well switched just because of different export laws and everything like that. I don't know. Let's see. Their number one export, natural or cultured pearl, precious something, mineral fuels. So I don't know.
For the U.S., or as far as the U.S. goes, and how it affects our prices here, I believe that India is a pretty big producer in wheat. There's a lot of wheat exported and traded across the world because there's only, a lot of wheat is grown in Russia, in Brazil, in America, and Canada, and India, I believe. And then all of that has to be dispersed throughout the world. So, yeah, I'd imagine with corporate farms and all these monopolies trying to control prices in India for wheat and maize and possibly even rice. I don't know how much rice they grow in India, but
right.
And obviously that'd probably affect other countries a little bit more than us, but
well, according to this, I don't know what website this is actually because it was just one of the first Bing deals that came up. But according to this, their biggest ag commodity is rice. But that's 10% of their exports, agriculture in general. But it says rice is their top export.
I'd be curious to see.
I don't know. I got to search deeper. I'm not super good at doing the whole...
We need someone here that,
a fact checker.
Yeah, someone just, that doesn't even talk on the podcast, and they just sit in the corner and tap away on the computer. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Tyson, what were you looking at? I just pulled up the Zoom deal. You were just staring off into space.
Staring up at snow out the window right now.
Snow?
Oh, it's snowing.
Yeah, it was raining about an hour ago, and now it's snowing.
It must have gotten, obviously must have gotten cold enough. I think it's still pretty warm here. It's still drizzling a little bit, but...
And, I mean, it's been drizzling off and on and snowing off and on for the past 36 hours anyway. But I guess I'll put my 2 cents in on the whole market thing.
Mm-hmm.
All three of us understand that there's one thing that's true about markets, and that's markets are very emotional.
Right. 100%.
So obviously you got your relations with different countries and how you're going to do all that, but that's all going to depend on the societal or global impact of how that comes out of India. It obviously the financial and economic impacts are going to be there, but the emotional impact and, like I said, global and societal impacts, you can't really measure what's going to happen if something goes awry there.
Right. Yeah, it's I'm trying to find this. Doggone it. website is this? India Brand Equity Foundation.
Hey, if any of our Indian listeners are hearing this right now, shoot us a DM on Instagram or something like that. Maverick_20 is my username. You guys can go look me up and update me on the situation over there. So I'd be curious to see an agriculturalist's perspective from over there.
Oh, absolutely. That would be so cool. Honestly,
maybe even have you on the podcast.
That's what I was going to say. If you
That'd
want to
be
be a
pretty
guest
neat,
on the
wouldn't it?
podcast. I'm not finding anything. It's not giving me a set list of their exports. Not like we can find for, like the different states
Yeah.
in the United States or whatever else it is. But I'm sure there's a list out there. I can't find it, though. I don't know. That is
Well,
crazy.
and that's over in India. And that's probably something that they don't regulate and pay attention to as much as we do in like the U.S. or.
I have no clue. See, this is why I think it'd be interesting. Obviously, it's not really doable this year to take an international trip, but I know that the state officer team 4 years ago, or maybe 5 years ago, when we were freshmen, when Tyson and Maverick and I were freshmen, that had Mercedes McHugh, Cade Canode, who else?
Gus Gill.
Gus Gill, Megan Caps, right?
I don't know. Was Gus Gill on that team?
Yeah.
I thought he was sophomore year.
I don't remember. Doggone it.
I'm pretty sure. I
feel
don't
like
think
there
he
was
was
a
on the same
Samuel
team
on
as
that team
Mercedes.
too.
Yeah, you might be right. Yes, there was a Sam. Samuel, I don't remember his name. But yeah, that whole team, they got to go to India. That's where they went for their...
That would be an interesting trip.
I don't know. We should have Mercedes on here or something, since she's a foundation member.
She would be a great guest.
Yeah, she'd be a cool one. But they would know a lot more about Indian agriculture than we do.
Yeah.
But see, that's kind of the value, I would say, of having an international trip. Whether we went to India or wherever we would have gone,
100%.
it would be cool to understand the agriculture of those places. But I also realize that this year's different and blah, 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 all of that stuff, But I think it would have been cool. I don't know. Where would we have gone? No clue. No clue at all.
Ask Tyson where he would.
Tyson, where would you go?
Well, the plan at the beginning of the year was that we would be going with the last year's officer team. So like Ashlyn Auctioner, Dominic Passera, Brandon Melnikoff, all them. Those men. And they planned to go to Ireland. They had things drawn out for that. And well, I'm pretty sure we were on board with just tagging along and making that our trip as well. But obviously we aren't still allowed to go in international travel. So
Right.
unless we want to make this a 3-team trip on an international
goodness
trip
gracious.
at some point,
Goodness gracious.
we'll see what happens. As for where I would like to go,
Mm-hmm.
I have absolutely no idea.
I think Ireland would
I
be
think
fun.
Ireland would actually probably be somewhere at the top of that list.
Yeah, I agree. Ireland,
You know where I'd like to really go?
where?
I would love to go to Brazil to see Brazilian agriculture.
That would be, yeah, you're right.
That would be pretty cool.
Brazil is, I think it's our number one competitor for beef
Corn?
markets and
I
corn,
think,
I
yeah.
think. But I know beef, just because I'm involved in the beef industry, I'm more, familiar with it. But I know Brazil, in the past, they've wrecked our beef markets because, well, they produce.
Yo,
I don't know.
I've heard some crazy stories about farms in Brazil.
Yeah.
Do we want to jump down this rabbit hole?
I'm trying to think, because I remember the story that you're talking about.
Yeah. So there's a certain law in Brazil, where if you're on someone's land for 2 weeks or more than 2 weeks, that you can claim your residency there, and then the landowner can't kick you off of that land. So you can pretty much do whatever you want. And so they have these workers that come in and work on these huge farms, these just massive farms. And some of them want to claim the residency there and never leave and then quit. and so they're just living for free on the land.
Oh boy.
And so to get these people off, they'll just like
shoot
them in the foot or in the knee. So
I think that you're being a little G-rated for the podcast there, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's some stuff that goes down that we don't even know about.
I like to imagine it kind of as like the Wild West.
Oh
you
my
know?
goodness. Get off
Get
my
off
land.
my land. Boom. Blows his knee out.
That would not be a fun thing to happen.
That would be a bad day.
No, I remember you telling me that story quite a while ago, and I can't imagine having something like that happen or having to deal with a situation like that.
Oh,
you know,
yeah, it'd be so wild.
well, it would be wild. I mean, you think about it. We're used to, like Tyson, I know you have been on your farm. What are you, third generation technically, since your grandpa's there?
I was a third generation in Joe's, Colorado.
Okay.
But my grandpa's dad, he farmed over in Hudson, Fort Morgan area. So, Hill Rose, Fort Morgan area.
Okay, so you're a fourth generation farmer, third generation on that ground.
Yeah, and I could get a lot more in detail with it because they farmed back over in Germany and Russia,
Right.
but I have no idea how far back that goes.
Right. Yeah. No, you're exactly. I bet it's quite a few generations. I wish when I was in high school, one thing that our school accounts let us do was they had a agreement with Ancestry.com, and you could go on there and just look at your lineage as far back as they had written. And I remember I went back. I wish that we had it so we could check out yours, Tyson. But I remember whenever I was in high school, I went back and looked at mine, and I went back 9 generations, which is how many generations ago that my family actually came over from Germany, or that my, whatever 9 greats grandpa came over from Germany. But I was looking into it and into the etymology of my last name, Wirtz, and that meant like greenery or shrubber as well. So just like yours, Tyson, we both came from, I guess it's Schneider too, huh? So we're both German farmer descendants.
Yeah, and I could go into a little bit more detail. I don't know the story as well as my dad and as well as other relatives, but pretty much first of all, there's a lot of Schneiders in the world.
Right.
Different spellings of it too, and obviously we're not all related, but from what I understand, our, I guess, ancestors, they were over in Germany, and at some point they were, I don't know if it was contracted or forced at some point to go farm over in Russia, because there was something going on in Russia. They had a bunch of German farmers moving over to Russia to farm Russian land and pretty much produce food over there. I don't know if it was forced or if it was some sort of deal between the two countries.
Right.
But this was at a point when they were like going through different leadership in the country at that point. And I don't know when it was exactly, but a bunch of German farmers that farmed in Russia,
Right.
And that had been there for a lot of years, actually, I don't know the exact amount, moved from Russia out to Fort Morgan and Hill Rose, Colorado. So they moved out they moved out to Morgan pretty much. We like to call it Morgan out here.
Right.
And if you go, well, there's people of that same, like, I don't know if you would call them a migrant group that still live in Morgan. Some of them moved up north to Kalichi, Iliff, Julesburg area. Obviously, we moved away from Hill Rose to Joe's, Colorado, and then obviously you have just a bunch of branching connections out across the country now because families just spread out. But yeah, that's the short version of how we got here.
That's neat.
Dang. I actually don't know the story of my family coming over, so I appreciate you telling that because that's kind of cool.
And I'm trying to think what's the name of it. I think it's called the Volga Valley is the exact valley it's either where they were from or where they farmed in. But that's the story behind it. I believe if we looked it up online, we could probably figure it out.
Yeah. The Volga Valley. That's a cool name.
Well, since you guys are on the topic, I'll kind of go into how my family got into this area and everything. So I believe I'll be talking about my mom's side, so the Gills. And originally and I'm not going to go into like overseas detail like Tyson did, but they were originally from Ohio, and when about 120 years ago, 110 years ago, when the news of irrigated farmland came from over here, they moved to northern Nebraska. And then kind of went to crap, as you could say, up there, all the irrigated farmland and everything, no water. And so they moved down to northern Colorado. And then they got there, and that was a very congested place to be farming at. And the news spread that they were building canal systems off of the Arkansas down here. And so, yeah, that's where we are today.
Dang.
That happened about 100 years ago, that move.
Dang. That's so cool. See, Tyson, you only run off of wells, right?
Yeah,
For
at least
for irrigating water.
Oh, well, I could talk about this for hours. So yeah, we run off of irrigation wells on our family farm.
Okay.
And most of the people around here do as well. I
Right.
couldn't name anyone specifically that doesn't. Because most of the people in the county are running off of wells, and I live right between, like I said, Cope and Joe's, Colorado. And if you look at it on a map, that's sitting like right in between Yuma and Washington County. I've talked to Caleb about this because we're just a bunch of like farm nerds, and that's who we are.
Pretty much, yeah.
And we went into, I want to say it was Quality Irrigation in Yuma, because we run Valley Sprinklers. I hope I didn't offend anyone.
Man.
Valley Sprinklers
Terrible.
podcast.
This is a
But we run Valleys. And we were in Quality Irrigation one day to just talk to them about some things with these sprinklers and just, I want to say, winter maintenance.
Right.
And there's this map in there, and it's a giant map, probably 3 foot by 6 foot, so like a flag almost. You had two of those, and they were Washington County and Yuma County, because both counties are pretty much just big rectangles standing on their short side.
Right.
And it had a pin in each spot where a sprinkler or well was located, I believe. And Washington County, it had some sprinklers or wells in them, but when you looked at Yuma County, it looked like a firing squad had hit the map, because there is just there's this river that runs right above, I want to say like 10-ish, maybe even less than 10 miles north of the most southern part of the Yuma County. And underneath there's a lot of sprinklers, but there's nothing above it for like 10 miles because it's all sand and it's not great.
Right.
It's a lot more pasture out there.
Oh,
But then once you get more up into the Yuma area, and I guess Eckley, I'm not sure if Eckley's in Washington or Yuma County actually, but you get up there more, you got a lot more sprinklers up there too. But they had different colored pins for what brand of sprinkler, like Valleys and Matic or whatever, Rinky. So they weren't all Valleys, obviously, but
Right.
there were plenty of sprinklers in Yuma County. So yeah, I could talk about that like for hours, but I'll stop myself right now.
That's pretty cool. I think you had mentioned at one point that there was, I don't know if you just said it or not, but there was 6 people to every one sprinkler or something like that in Yuma County.
I want to say it's something similar to that, because there's only like 6,000 or 7,000 people in the county.
And there's probably 1,000 sprinklers. My
And
goodness.
I would say there's definitely close to 1,000 sprinklers. Or something. Well, not maybe. I could be wrong there. It might be less.
Right.
But if every single pin on that map represented a sprinkler or a well,
Yeah.
if it's a sprinkler, I would say it's definitely closer to
Dang.
1,000 than if it was just a well.
My goodness. See, the whole reason I had even brought that up was because you guys run out of wells up there, and we are almost 100% reliant. There are wells down here, but we're almost 100% reliant on 2 canals down here. We've got the Fort Lyon, and then we've got the Amity. And, like, we actually get water tomorrow. This is Sunday, so tomorrow we get water. They're filling the canal, the Fort Lyon. And so if we don't get rains like this, or snow in the mountains where we have snowpack that comes down the Arkansas, we don't get water. We already probably will only get, I don't know, 10 or 12 runs this year.
Yeah,
which is
snowpack isn't very
barely enough water to get us through to like June. So who knows about corn this year? Hay, we'll probably get 2 cuttings that are good, that are decent. But I don't know. I'm always a little bit jealous of you getting to run off of a well up there, Tyson. Just
It's definitely nice. I sympathize with you guys down there because I obviously just a geographical location. You guys just don't need as much water as we do.
Yep.
And yeah, running off of a well just makes things simple. But yeah, we just put our corn. We got almost every single sprinkler or well, whatever you want to say.
Right.
It's corn under it every year. But there is one circle up north of Highway 36 on our what we call the J. We call it J's because man name I want to say Jay Thompson used to own it.
Okay.
And that's just what we call it. And we have actually a cover crop in there for our cattle.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what you call it, just irrigated feed, but it's obviously not just windrow and all that. It's just there. And the cover crop, there's 2 of them. One half of the circle is just a bunch of grass. So like western wheatgrass, intermediate wheatgrass, orchard grass, and stuff like that. And that just is seeded and stays in the ground and comes up after, comes back out. It's a perennial.
Mm-hmm.
And the other half is a cover crop where it is oats, turnips, radishes, field peas, and a bunch of stuff you wouldn't expect in eastern Colorado.
Right.
But we sell that stuff off, and we rotational graze in a kind of a circle pattern with that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it does not take near as much water to, grow those cover crops out there to feed the cattle than it would to, grow corn on it. And some of these sprinklers out here, out in eastern Colorado, some of them definitely need retired out here, but also some people just find water at random sometimes. So I'm not going to say I'm an expert at all on any of that.
Yeah.
Well, no, I can talk about that a little bit. For anyone that's wondering, like, why we have canals down here and why that they can run water off of wells up there is there is an aquifer called the Ogallala Aquifer that some of it spans from Nebraska. It covers almost all of Kansas, a little bit of Missouri, Colorado, fingers off into Colorado just a little bit. And so in the Eastern Plains here, we can drill wells and tap into that aquifer and then use that as irrigation water. And what would be really interesting is like kind of what Tyson was saying with those maps of the counties and having the dots of the sprinkler, of all the sprinklers across the county, is I would love to see that on like a statewide level with all of the states that the Ogallala covers. And so that would be really cool, like seeing all the different sprinklers and everything, and how that kind of makes the shape out of the aquifer. And so for anyone that doesn't know what an aquifer is it's like a giant underground cavern almost that is just filled with water. Like it's a huge underground freshwater lake.
Yep.
So,
Dang.
Caleb may have pulled out a map or something of it. So
I did. I pulled out the map of all of the aquifers throughout the United States. The Ogallala, it covers, what is this? What in the world? It covers the majority of Nebraska, a decent portion of the western side of Kansas, and it just barely scoops in. I bet it hits about Cope area, but it scoops in on the northeastern corner of Colorado, and then scoops back out around the central, and then barely comes in, and I think we must be right on the corner, or right on the edge of it, because that thing just barely comes in, probably right about where the Arkansas River flows. So it's not good enough for us. But as you go out, Garden City direction into Kansas, it's all over out there. So they've got as much well water as they can run. I mean, it's insane. I do envy it. I'm jealous.
It's cool. Like,
There are regulations on all that.
Oh, there
though.
is, yeah, 100%.
I mean, back in the day, it was like 40 years ago. Not even really. People were pumping as much water as they really wanted to.
Right.
Like, it was insane how much people used to pump, and you're only allowed so many. I want to say it's feet per acre.
Yep, it's acre feet.
That terminology.
Right, acre foot.
And yeah, you're only allowed so much.
Yep.
But I don't know. There's definitely a sustainability factor to it, and
Oh yeah,
some years those things are met with, and it all depends on the rainfall.
yeah.
Really.
Oh, it does. There's a farm out west of here where I farm, west about 13 miles, and it's got 2 wells on it. And between the 2 wells, they can run up to 300 acre foot in a year. 300 acre foot, for reference, that means that on 1 acre, right, you can have 1 foot of water, 12 inches of water in a year. So if it's a 250 acre farm, you can put just barely over 12 inches of water on the whole farm between those 2 wells in a year. That's just the limit. If you go over it, you get fined. If you go under it, you just wasted your water and you should have used it. But no, they do have lots of limits on it, and it's pretty it's held pretty tight. But however much I love this conversation about water, we actually need to kind of wrap this episode up. We started way late recording, and so we kind of got to start wrapping up this episode. This is a lot of fun, just sitting here jabbering with Maverick, you, and Tyson. I think it's fun.
I've enjoyed it.
Tyson, did you enjoy it?
Oh, I've always enjoyed talking farming and FFA stuff. So yeah, I loved it.
Right. I think we spent a solid 10, 15 minutes talking about India agriculture, which is fine. It doesn't quite fit under the whole four-corner ag, highlighting Colorado agriculture. But, agriculture is agriculture.
But hey, hopefully you guys learned something today.
Yeah, I know I learned something. I think I learned that I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to Indian agriculture. But I thought it was a lot of fun. Maybe we'll do these kinds of episodes more often. Since every once in a while, we just have guests that have something else come up or whatever, and that's okay. So anyway, make sure if you're listening, if you're a FFA member anywhere in the country, but more specifically in Colorado, that you guys keep up to date with all of our social media activities. I know that we've got a couple ladies on our officer team that are doing Wednesday little workshops and fun little deals. I think they played, what was that? They played that imposter game. What is that?
Oh, what was that? I saw the Instagram live.
They played Among Us the other day and just hung out with members, which is pretty cool. We've got that. We've got Spill the Tea with Tyson. And then obviously Four Corner Ag. We're a couple days late on this episode, but we're going to attempt to be putting them out at least once a week for you guys to listen to. And I think they've steadily gotten better. And now that we've got cool microphones, I think it sounds way better. Hopefully it does.
Oh,
you guys will have to let us know. But otherwise, just keep up to date. Stay involved. We'll be coming out with lots of different announcements and whatever else it may be for events coming up at the end of this year. We're still battling with this COVID stuff, so who knows what it'll all look like. But anyway, this has been an episode of Four Corner Ag. Thank you guys for listening, and we are out.